Most of those who share your blood have lived their entire lives like faint, forgettable letters in the family's history book. Born, existed, then vanished, leaving behind a cold name etched on a gravestone among thousands of other meaningless names. No legacy, no power, no story strong enough to survive beyond a single generation. You were not born to repeat that fate. You are here to sever the bloodline of mediocrity, to become the largest, heaviest, most resounding name your lineage has ever witnessed. To reach that, you must betray comfort, sever ties with the mindset of settling, and build a life so monumental that they will either worship you or tremble at the mere mention of your name. Being liked has never been the goal. Being remembered is the ultimate victory. You inherited a name from your family, but right now that name is nothing but an empty shell. Your mission is to fill it with the weight of achievement, power, and undeniable respect. This begins with one uncompromising act: tearing apart the blueprint unconsciously passed down by generations before you. They said, "Don't stand out, be humble, be grateful for what you have, don't take risks." It sounds wise, but it's the whisper of fear disguised as wisdom. It kept them alive, but it also chained them to a life of mediocrity. And if you continue down that path, your future will be nothing more than a faded copy of the past they left behind. This ending only changes when you choose to face the truth. Most of your ancestors did not live, they merely existed. They did not dominate, they obeyed. They did not build, they accepted. Every tradition, every unspoken rule, every value you were taught from childhood may very well be a chain. It is a script written in the blood of failures and fears, passed from one hand to another through generations, and today it has landed in yours. What will you do? Keep it intact and sign your name to the same play, or set fire to the whole thing and rewrite it from the beginning? To end the bloodline of mediocrity, you must be willing to destroy the image of the obedient child, the well-mannered grandchild, the harmonious family member they want you to be. You will have to disappoint some people, and that is a good sign. Every great leap makes others uneasy. Their unease is proof you are stepping out of the worn path. The more you unsettle them, the closer you move toward building real power. Do not expect them to cheer when you begin. They will not understand what you are doing. They will think you are too ambitious, too cold, too different. Let them think so. Let the whispers and the doubtful stares become your fuel. Because when you truly rise, their silence and suspicion will make your victory thunder even louder. This is not a collective journey. No one in your bloodline will lead you. Most will even try to pull you back. They will use every reason to keep you in place: affection, duty, family identity. But the only duty you have is to destroy the limits they accepted. You do not owe the past a perfect copy. You owe the future a new blueprint. And to create that blueprint, you must redefine your value. Not based on praise, not on recognition, but on the results you produce and the impact you carve into reality. Every step must be calculated to build a story that, later, whether they love you or hate you, they cannot ignore. Picture the moment decades from now when someone in the family stands up and says, "From that day on, everything changed." This change cannot come from half-hearted actions. It demands that you break away from every anchor, willing to step into territory no one before you dared to tread. You must act with the urgency of someone who has no way back, with a hunger burning hotter than fear. This is a life or death battle between you and the weak legacy you inherited, and only one side will survive. From this moment on, treat each day as an attack on the old limits. Every decision, every action, every refusal must become a brick laid into the foundation of the empire you are building. There is no room for compromise with mediocrity. You are not merely building a life, you are rewriting the history of an entire bloodline. And that history will not remember those who conformed. It will only etch the names of those who broke the mold and staked everything to become the exception. Today, you declare war. Not against one person, but against everything that has kept your bloodline beneath its true potential. This war will not end in months or years. It will last until your name is engraved into the minds of every generation to come. And when that happens, your name will no longer be just a set of letters on a birth certificate. It will be a symbol. It will be living proof that one person, just one, can change the destiny of an entire lineage. Every bloodline carries an invisible blueprint, unwritten on paper but carved deep into behaviors, words, and so-called values passed down through generations. It is the map for how to live, how to think, and how to react to every situation. It begins with stories told over and over, unspoken rules, and pieces of advice delivered as if they were absolute truths. You've heard them since childhood. Don't be too ambitious. Be grateful for what you have. Don't draw attention to yourself. Don't do anything that makes others uncomfortable. These words are not mere suggestions. They are chains binding your mind, shaping the trajectory of your life before you were even old enough to choose. This old blueprint was born out of fear. Fear of losing the little that's been gained. Fear of criticism. Fear of failure. Fear of standing alone. Generations before you lived by it to survive, and they called it wisdom. But the truth is, it only kept them safe. It never pushed them to touch the edges of their potential. They didn't build a legacy. They preserved the present. And when they passed that blueprint to you, they didn't realize they were handing you something that would quietly drain the life out of you: repetition. To break it, you must first see it clearly, not as a treasured inheritance, but as a system designed to preserve mediocrity. Trace it to its roots. Who in your family abandoned a dream because of practical advice? Who settled for a safe job instead of chasing a bigger opportunity? Who lived a life without major mistakes, but left behind no significant mark? Do not romanticize the past. Do not paint over weak choices simply because they were called stable. When you identify each piece of the blueprint, you will see the truth. It does not serve you. It only serves the collective sense of safety, even when that safety means missing every chance to rise higher. And this is when you must make a ruthless decision. Either you live by their script, or you burn it and rewrite everything. Burning it does not mean merely rejecting a few pieces of advice. It means abandoning the entire ideology that has seeped into your blood. Understand that breaking an inherited mold will not only bring resistance, it will make you a threat. By refusing to follow the old path, you indirectly condemn everyone who chose it. You become a mirror reflecting their compromises, and no one feels comfortable being forced to look at that. They will call you a traitor. They will label you arrogant, ungrateful, and you must be ready to accept that as part of the price for freedom. The old blueprint thrives on silent compliance. It loses power the moment someone dares to question it. Ask, why should I be humble when it keeps me below my capabilities? Why should I play safe when every breakthrough begins with risk? Why should I be like everyone else when I was not born to blend in? Each question you ask is a hammer strike into the foundation of that mold. As you begin to break it, a void will appear. Do not fear it. That void is the space where you can design your life on entirely new principles, principles that put results above approval, that prioritize inner strength over temporary safety, that treat every limit as a challenge to be conquered, not a boundary to be respected. See this act as burning down a decayed old house to rebuild from the foundation up. At first, you will only see smoke and ashes, but only from those ruins can you lay the groundwork for something entirely new, untouched by the design flaws of the past. And once you begin, there is no going back, because every step backward drags you into the very loop you fought to escape. The key is to stop expecting others to understand or support you right away. They have lived their whole lives believing in the old blueprint. They will not easily accept that it's wrong. You don't need to convince them. You only need to prove it through results. When what you achieve shatters every limit they thought possible, your new blueprint will become the standard for the next generation. Breaking an inherited mold is not a one-time act. It is a continuous process. Every decision, every habit, every different choice you make reinforces the new blueprint. And when this new blueprint is complete, it will not only serve you, it will become a tool of liberation for those courageous enough to follow. In the end, remember this: you do not burn the old blueprint out of hatred for your ancestors, but because you refuse to let their limits become yours. You honor them not by repeating their lives, but by elevating their name to a height they never dared to imagine. And when you do that, history will remember you as the one who set fire to the invisible chains, opening a path that never existed before for the entire bloodline. No general steps onto a battlefield without studying the terrain. Before you can conquer, you must understand the ground you stand on, and that ground is your family history. Here, research is not for praise or reverence. It is for dissection, analysis, and uncovering the weaknesses that have repeated across generations. You cannot repair what you have not dared to face. Start by laying bare the moments of surrender. Find the times when someone in your line abandoned a great dream in favor of safety. Identify who accepted imposed limits instead of breaking them. Notice the stories that begin with, "if back then," and are told in a regretful tone. Each one is living proof of compromise. These wounds are not only of the past, they are inherited as mindsets and habits, quietly restraining every step you take. Do not romanticize weak choices just because they are wrapped in the language of sacrifice or for the family. Often those reasons simply rationalize fear. Trace the true motives to their roots: fear of failure, pressure to resemble the majority, fear of being cut off from the collective safety. Once clearly identified, you will see troubling patterns repeating themselves. As you investigate, be ruthless enough to avoid emotional traps. This is not a courtroom to judge who was right or wrong. It is an inquiry into why an entire bloodline has been held back. Observe how earlier generations responded to major opportunities. Did they seize them or retreat? Look at how they faced failure. Did they learn and return stronger, or accept defeat and never try again? The most dangerous element in a family's spiritual inheritance is not poverty or lack of resources, but blind loyalty to rules that no longer fit. These rules are handed down with the belief that they protect, but in truth they bind. They turn descendants into gatekeepers of a decaying fortress instead of warriors who go out to conquer new territory. You must identify the emotional chains, those invisible bonds that make you feel guilty at the mere thought of leaving the family's beaten path. It might be the belief that leaving your hometown is betrayal, that earning a lot of money is greed, that standing out only invites trouble. These chains are not loud, but their restraint is stronger than any wall. Once you see the entire picture, make a vow. None of those weaknesses will be carried into the future. Every negative legacy stops with you. You will be the final filter, preventing old limits from seeping into the next generation. This demands the highest discipline not only to transform yourself, but to keep old patterns from returning when you encounter hardship. Imagine holding a scalpel, each cut removing a habit, a belief, a reflex that has constrained your family. Your hand cannot tremble. If you miss even one, it will continue to multiply and cling to your children. This is not the work of a single day, but a continuous process in which you fight in the present while cleaning up the spiritual inheritance of the past. Along the way, you will feel alone. You are doing what few dare to do, not only building the future, but dismantling an ideological structure assembled over generations. That solitude is the sign you are on the right path. Mold breakers are misunderstood while they live and revered once their work is done. When you research the roots, do not look only at failure. Search for seeds of strength that went unused. Perhaps someone once dared to be different but was buried beneath opposition. Treat them as proof that your veins still carry the seeds of courage, needing only the right nurture. The ultimate purpose of this research is not to drown in the past, but to seize control of it. You will turn history into a strategic data vault, knowing exactly what to eliminate and what to multiply. From that point on, you are no longer the product of your bloodline. You are its redesign. And from that moment, any weakness that remains will be your choice, not your fate. No one has ever built true power by asking for permission. Every time you wait for approval, you hand someone else the authority to decide your fate. They may not say it outright, but their silence or nod becomes the invisible lock hanging on the door to your freedom. The problem is, Most people don't realize they have been standing before that door their entire lives, clutching an application for permission they will never dare to walk through without a nod. You've seen this pattern everywhere. The child who waits for parental consent to change careers. The grandchild who needs the family's blessing to leave their hometown. The young person who won't share an idea until the community praises it. Even when the people they seek approval from are long gone, they still live as if under their watchful eyes. This is invisible dependency, a form of mental bondage more dangerous than any physical barrier. To become the exception in your bloodline, you must stop asking for permission immediately, not because you disrespect others, but because you understand this truth. The biggest decisions of your life cannot be influenced by people who are not willing to pay the price in your place. If they do not bear the consequences, they have no right to veto. Approval is a dangerous anesthetic. It makes you believe you are moving forward when, in reality, you are only moving within the boundaries of what's been sanctioned. People take pride in being called good, obedient, well-behaved. But those labels are marks of the predictable, the ones who will never challenge the old order. You cannot create seismic change if your top priority is keeping everyone comfortable. When you stop asking for permission, the first thing that will happen is you'll be given ugly labels: arrogant, cold, disrespectful. Embrace them. Those words are not the truth about you. They are the defensive reflex of people threatened by your autonomy. Every time they say, "You've changed," it is proof you've stepped out of the space they could control. Real power begins when you learn to make decisions based on vision, not approval. This doesn't mean blind recklessness. It means assessing the risk and choosing based on what brings you closest to your goal, regardless of who agrees. You act for results, not for applause. And when the results appear, they will silence even those who opposed you. Do not confuse stopping the act of asking for permission with openly defying everyone. You don't need to wage war to prove your autonomy. Steadfast silence is often stronger than any argument. When you act quietly and let your achievements speak, you not only shield yourself from useless conflict, but also keep others from predicting your next move. Remember, every word you speak to justify your decision is a door you open for interference. Every time you over-explain, you're silently admitting that others have the right to review your choices. Power lies in keeping silent when it's unnecessary to speak and acting with unwavering certainty. When people realize there is nothing they can do to change your direction, they are forced to adapt to your new presence. Stopping the need for permission also means accepting isolation. You will lose relationships that existed only because of false agreement. Some people will leave because they only knew how to stay attached to the compliant version of you. Do not try to keep them. They belong to the old part of your life where you lived to please rather than to influence. Their departure only lightens the load, so you can move faster. Once you grow used to not asking for permission, you will see a truth. The freedom to decide is not a privilege, it is the foundation of power. It allows you to experiment, fail, adjust, and return stronger without being chained to anyone's expectations. It is what turns you from a compliant individual into a person who shapes the rules of the game. And once you enter this territory, there is no way back. Approval, once your mental crutch, becomes nothing more than an outdated shackle. You will no longer see the need for permission as reasonable, because you understand that every moment spent waiting for a nod is a moment you hand control to someone else. Power is never granted. It belongs only to those bold enough to take it. From this day forward, that is how you will operate. No asking, no waiting, only acting, and letting results be the only proof you ever need. The most powerful moves make no sound. True power is not cultivated in the loud glare of attention, but in the shadows, where every action is calculated and every step forward is shielded from prying eyes and idle whispers. While others boast about their plans and accomplishments, they expose their strategies, giving others the chance to break them. In contrast, when you choose silence, you turn yourself into an unknown quantity, and the unknown is always the hardest to counter. Silence does not mean passivity. Silence is the stage of accumulation, where you turn each day into a brick for a foundation no one knows exists. While others spend their time seeking recognition, you spend yours sharpening skills, building resources, forging alliances. While they argue, you execute. While they dream, you lay the groundwork for your empire. This silence not only protects your plans, it creates the element of surprise. No one fears what they can see clearly. They fear what they cannot predict. Each time you keep your intentions hidden, you force opponents to guess, draining their energy in speculation about your next move. This is a strategic advantage the showy will never possess. The period of building in silence is when you train discipline to the point where you no longer depend on motivation. You don't need applause to keep going. The progress you make each day is its own reward. When no one is watching, you set standards higher than anything the public would expect. You don't practice to perform, you practice to dominate. Once you choose this path, you must learn to resist the temptation to reveal your achievements too soon. Showing your hand just to receive praise is a sign of impatience. Those who are truly dangerous never display their full capability before the time is right. They understand that the value of surprise lies in keeping it until the final strike is delivered. Building in silence also offers another advantage. It removes you from the cycle of comparison. When you are not exposing yourself on the same stage as others, you escape the pressure of constantly proving yourself. This allows you to grow at your own pace, free from distractions, and without being dragged into a race where the prize is only fleeting approval. When the time to appear comes, it will not be a gentle step forward. It will be a storm. You do not arrive with requests or explanations, but with results forged through hundreds of days of quiet labor. It is the moment when every eye is forced to turn to you, not because you sought attention, but because your presence cannot be ignored. Appearing like a storm means giving no one time to prepare a defense. They will be caught off guard by the speed, scale, and strength you unleash. Every achievement, every move you make at that moment becomes undeniable proof that you have been far ahead of them all along. They simply never realized it. And this very shock breeds both respect and fear, two forces far more enduring than any praise. Remember, the loud are often the weak, using noise to hide the emptiness within. In contrast, your silence is filled with real work, real progress, real strength. When people finally see you, they will be unable to deny that you are on another level, not because you said so, but because the evidence is overwhelming. Building in silence and appearing like a storm is not a temporary tactic. It is the lifestyle of those who want lasting power. It demands that you control your craving for recognition, stay patient with the process, and be ruthless enough to keep your secrets even from those closest to you. You are not hiding, you are preparing. You are not absent, you are accumulating. And when the storm that bears your name erupts, it will sweep away all doubt, leaving only one truth: no one can stop what they never saw coming. Power lies not only in what you truly possess, but in how others think of you. The power of image and perception can elevate an ordinary person into a legend, or turn someone with real ability into a faded shadow if mismanaged. In a long-term strategy, how you appear, what you lead others to believe about you matters just as much, and sometimes even more, than what you can actually do. Perception is an invisible battlefield where every rumor, every glance, every gesture is artillery fire. Those who master this art know how to make themselves a symbol in the minds of others, a figure who, whether loved or hated, cannot be ignored. It's the kind of power that makes enemies cautious even before you act, and makes allies respect you even in your silence. Building an image is not about putting on a false mask. It is about selecting and amplifying the strategic parts of yourself to serve your purpose. You let them see your strength but conceal your weaknesses. You show them your confidence while hiding the intricate calculations behind it. You make them believe every step you take is certain, even when inside you are still weighing your next move. The skill lies in letting others think they know you, when in reality, they are only seeing a surface layer. Every word, every action must be weighed like a chess move. Even your silence must have purpose to let them craft their own story about you in the direction you want, or to let them exhaust themselves by guessing wrong. The weak often expose everything: their emotions, their plans, their strengths, their flaws, believing that complete honesty will earn respect. In reality, it only creates openings for exploitation. In contrast, those who become legendary know how to reveal just enough to keep curiosity alive and maintain distance. They understand that mystery is the glue that holds lasting intrigue together. A key element of this art is managing rumors. Rumors are not always the enemy. If you know how, you can turn them into allies. Sometimes, letting people hear about you from a third party is far more powerful than speaking for yourself. When whispers of your strength, intelligence, or influence spread, they become an invisible shield that prevents you from being underestimated. However, the power of image is only truly sustainable when supported by substance. An empty facade will crumble quickly under pressure. This is why, as you shape how others perceive you, you must simultaneously strengthen your real abilities. The combination of a controlled image and genuine power is the foundation of a legend that cannot be easily destroyed. In managing perception, unpredictability is the ultimate weapon. If they believe they've figured you out, they will try to control you. But if you remain unpredictable, they will always stay on the defensive. Do not become an open book. Be a fortress that opens its gates only when you choose, and always closes them before they see everything inside. When you step into any space, let your presence speak for you. Your posture, your gaze, the cadence of your words all must align to communicate that you are the one in control. You don't need noise to influence. Sometimes a confident stillness makes people more cautious than any grand declaration ever could. Image and perception are what remain when you are not physically present. They are the whispers between people who have never met you, the imprint your adversary cannot erase from their mind, the reason a room shifts its atmosphere the moment you enter. When built correctly, they turn you into a symbol not just of power, but of unpredictability and influence beyond the reach of ordinary people. When you control how you are perceived, you're not just playing a game, you are writing the rules for the entire board. And once you've become the image that others both respect and fear, your power is no longer limited by what you do, but multiplied by what they think you might do. That is the power of image and perception, the invisible weapon that can determine the outcome of any game. Sustainable power does not exist in a vacuum. It is nurtured and expanded through people, relationships, and the systems surrounding you. But ruthless connection is not the same as attachment built purely on emotion. It is not about making friends for companionship. It is about constructing a network like a power architect, where every link serves a function, every relationship is a tool, and every connection is maintained or severed based on strategy, not sentiment. Those who don't understand this principle often enter relationships with their hearts wide open, granting unconditional access to themselves. They believe absolute sincerity will create absolute loyalty. But the world does not operate in symmetry. People will take advantage of what you give, and when interests shift, loyalty shifts with them. Ruthless connection begins with accepting that every relationship is a power transaction, even if it's disguised under the surface of emotion. To master people, you must first observe more than you speak. Every conversation is an opportunity to measure someone's motives, weaknesses, ambitions, and fears. Do not rush to reveal yourself. Let them feel as if you are open, while you only share harmless fragments. While they think they are getting to know you, you are mapping the entire structure of their psychology. Once you understand what they want, you become a selective source of supply. Give them what they crave, but never give it all. Scarcity increases value. When they must work to earn your attention, recognition, or opportunities, they begin to treat those things as precious rewards, and they will hesitate to betray you for fear of losing the source. Ruthless connection is also the art of maintaining strategic distance. You can be friendly, but never let anyone feel they own you. Excessive closeness creates the illusion of equal power and opens the door to chaos. Distance keeps you higher in their perception and forces them to adjust their behavior to preserve the connection. In systems, the same principle applies on a larger scale. You must identify the power centers, the choke points that determine the flow of information, resources, and opportunities. Instead of trying to control everything, you only need to control these strategic points. Once you hold them, you don't need to appear too often. The system will run in the direction you want on its own. Build alliances, but never let them become chains. An alliance exists only as long as it serves your objective. When a connection begins draining more energy than it creates value, you must be ready to withdraw without hesitation. Guilt has no place in strategy. Every decision to keep or cut a relationship must be based on efficiency and long-term benefit. At the same time, know how to use others' ambition and envy as tools. When two individuals or groups have conflicting interests, you don't need to intervene directly. You simply direct information or create conditions for competition to unfold naturally. While they disperse their strength on each other, you consolidate your position without facing direct confrontation. In daily communication, practice the ability to speak in layers. A single sentence can simultaneously convey friendliness, carry a warning, and plant an idea the other person believes is their own. This is how you guide others' thinking without issuing commands. Those who are skilled at maneuvering systems don't need to shout. They only need to place one stone in the right spot and let gravity do the rest. Ruthless connection requires you to manage your reputation as your most valuable asset. People will be loyal to the image they hold of you more than to your real self. If that image is a source of power, protect and reinforce it constantly. A strong reputation allows you to wield direct power less often, because the mere impression of you already shapes the behavior of others. Finally, remember, mastering people and systems is not about turning you into a loner, but about ensuring every connection you build has strategic meaning. You are never a pawn on someone else's board. You are the one who designs the board. And when all the critical links are tied to you as the central pivot, every movement in the system must account for your position first. That is when you are no longer just part of the game. You are the center that decides how the game is played. A true legacy is not the soft praises or gentle memories shared over a family dinner table. A legacy that endures must be hard enough to withstand time, sharp enough to cut through layers of oblivion, and heavy enough to force its mention even when people would rather avoid it. It is not born from comfort. It is forged in harsh discipline, ruthless decisions, and the ability to endure judgmental stares that most people will do anything to avoid. Those who want to be both loved and remembered often end up forgotten. The world does not preserve the memory of those who pleased everyone. It remembers those who shaped the rules of the game. If you want your name to outlive generations, you must accept that affection is fleeting, while fear and respect leave the deepest marks. This is not a call to become cruel, but a warning that softness in your principles will erase your mark faster than any failure could. The price of immortality is constant sacrifice. You will lose friends who cannot handle your transformation. You will grow distant from those who only knew how to stay attached to the predictable, easy-to-please version of you. You will give up peaceful evenings, long nights of uninterrupted sleep, and the innocence of how you once thought the world worked. In return, you gain a place in the minds of others, not as a charming memory, but as a landmark they are forced to account for in their decisions. To reach an unyielding legacy, you must build systems and structures that ensure your presence endures, even after you are gone. Every principle you establish, every mechanism you set in motion, every person you train becomes an extension of your influence. When you shape these into a self-sustaining network, your power stretches beyond the limits of time. But a system survives only if it is protected by rigid boundaries. When you compromise to please, you open the door to erosion. A weak successor needs only a few months to destroy what took you a lifetime to build. That is why every rule you leave behind must be reinforced with culture and perception forces that make anyone who touches them feel pressured to maintain rather than dismantle. Immortality of legacy demands that you choose every trace you leave with precision. Not every victory is worth recording, and not every loss should be buried. Some strategic failures must remain as warnings to the next generation, so they never repeat the same mistakes. Some successes must be partially hidden, so their mechanisms can continue operating without being dismantled too soon. You must also be willing for your very presence to become a barrier to the weak. When people see your name tied to a standard that is too high, they will disqualify themselves from the game. That is how a legacy protects itself, not by admitting everyone, but by keeping the threshold high enough that only those with true strength can pass. The price of immortality also lies in abandoning the need to be fully understood. Some will label you cold, unfeeling, overly ambitious, overly controlling. They will not understand that you do not build a life to please the crowd. You build it to shape the future of an entire bloodline. Misunderstanding does not diminish your value, so long as the systems and influence you leave behind continue to function. In the end, your legacy is not the possessions you leave, but the changes in behavior, mindset, and limits of those who live after you. If they make different decisions because they once heard a story about you, if they act with more caution or more boldness because your shadow still lingers in their minds, then you have achieved what most will never touch: immortality. And when time has buried the names of all others in dust, yours will still be spoken, sometimes in a lowered voice, sometimes with deep reverence, but always with the acknowledgement that you changed everything. That is when legacy is no longer tied to emotion. It has become an irreversible fact. You will have paid with solitude, loss, and countless unseen nights, but in return, you stand in a place where even enemies must account for you before they act. That is the price of immortality, and if you dare to pay it, it will buy you the one thing every human life craves, yet few ever attain: existence beyond death.